It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. I've got Brandon Wiegand. He's with Thrive. What is Thrive? What do you do?
So I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Thrive. Thrive is the largest independent operator in the state of Nevada. We have 6 operating dispensaries. I have another conditional license. We have another license that we're going to place, so we should end up with a total of 8 in the state of Nevada with their existing license footprint. And then 2 cultivation licenses, production and distribution, so vertically integrated in the state of Nevada.
We don't have vertical integration in Washington, so separated by a producer or processor, which can't be the same as a retailer. What are the advantages and disadvantages of vertical integration?
You know, disadvantages, it's a more complicated business to run, right? I mean, you're looking at a full vertical integration, you have an entire supply chain to manage, but I think that's outweighed by the advantages of being able to, produce your own product, control our own destiny. If we can't find the product we're looking for in the state, we can produce that ourselves. We can make sure manage to our quality levels and ensure that we always have product on the shelf that meets our customers' demands.
Mm-hmm. And so talk to me a little bit about the rebound of 2020. Complete lockdown, no tourism, and impacted vertical integration in places of high tourism like Vegas more than anywhere else. So I've got to ask you, how did that impact your business and how did you rebound? What are some of the SOPs you've written since in order to try and alleviate that? That's regulatory. Is it regulatory risk? It's environmental systemic risk that you can't really diversify or get away from, but how are you trying to?
Yeah, what's interesting is we didn't really we saw a quick downturn, right, during COVID. We had lockdowns. Very quickly, though, we were declared essential businesses, and so we were able to turn around and start operating again. So while we saw a little blip, the market actually came back really fast during COVID. So we were able to deploy delivery model, got that up and running very quickly, and then within about 3 to 6 months we saw our business recover, and then we actually saw growth. The interesting part, the rebound, is really, I would say we're not on the rebound yet. We're still I think we're hitting the trough and starting to see that pop back. And what I think we saw is really an artificially increased demand during that COVID period, where we saw a lift because, look, consumers were stuck at home. Consumers had stimulus money to spend. We weren't competing with discretionary income. You didn't have anything else to do, so what do? You stay at home, you watch Netflix, and you smoke pot. And so we saw an artificial lift. Now, a lot of operators started to adjust and started to think, oh, this is the new demand. And great, we've seen the increase we've been looking for and started to scale their businesses to account for that. And what we've seen now is a recovery, or I'd say a correction as we're moving into recovery, where I think the business has come back down to reality. When you look at prior to COVID numbers, we're kind of hitting that point there with a little bit of growth. And so if you handicap and take out that, what I call an artificial demand due to COVID, I think we're right on track with where we need to be. The unfortunate part is a lot of operators scaled up, invested, plowed money into the business to adjust for a new demand that has not realized and has actually evaporated. And so I think we're hitting that trough now, really starting to settle back into reality. Businesses are starting to correct for that. Fortunate, I came in 3 months ago, but fortunately for me, Thrive was fiduciarily responsible. They, did not increase the size of the business. They did not scale the business to account for that demand. Kind of let's sit and wait and see where this really comes back to. And we've set ourselves up, I think, in a really good position to start to grow from this point forward.
Talk to me a little bit about how to bring in people at this point. Advertising is so nuanced, it's so regional or localized, and some places you can have a billboard, some places there's no way you can be on a bus. Yep. And so in Washington State, there's a guy who has a retail shop, and he opened up a car wash. And so instead of Uncle Likes Pot Shop, it's Uncle Likes, and in really small letters, Car Wash. And so that's his way of getting around it. I mean, people hate him, but it's this business. No one got into this to really be friends, and I think that altruism is kind of getting some of the OGs, some of the medical folks confused a little bit on some of these tactics. What creative ways, or just in chat, you don't have to be creative, you just have to have the opportunity. Yeah. What are some of your marketing and advertising that you've been seeing? What's worked, what hasn't, what are you doing?
Yeah, Yeah, so in Nevada we're under similar restrictions. I think not as egregious. We still have the ability to advertise on billboards. That's an area that we've seen opportunity and we've plowed money into. I think it's become saturated, and so we're starting to look at like programmatic advertising. You kind of underline the importance. The challenge with this industry is everything. It feels like running with a parasail on your back. It's not as simple as deploying Facebook model and just getting clicks and getting eyeballs. You really got to be creative. You really got to be strategic. I think outside of the box. And so some of the methods we deployed, billboards have worked well for us. We've done a lot of partnerships. We've looked at programmatic advertising. We're very focused on the customer experience. We're fortunate in that we've always been more of a locals dispensary. Our Sammy Davis location, just on the other side of the Las Vegas Boulevard behind Resorts World, is probably our first step into what I call the traveler or tourist market. But knowing our locals and dealing with the repeat customers really had us focus on the customer experience, making sure that we have the right products, making sure that we know our customer, making sure we talk to them in a strategic manner. I think our next iteration is really going to be getting away from what I'd call one-dimensional advertising and really going into segmented advertising. And that's not anything new. It's just something that as I've come into this group that I think there's a lot of opportunity, and we've seen it work with other operators. Really start to look at and understand your customers at a nuanced level. So I'm not running a promo that's just $99 ounces. It's really, if I'm talking to you as a concentrate consumer, I'm targeting you with concentrate advertisements. I'm talking to you about your concentrate purchasing behavior. I'm doing new product drops for you where I don't have to send that out to my entire audience. I'm really sending it to each of those segments. And so I think that's an area that we're exploring. We'll certainly ratchet up. Beyond that, it's there's a lot of opportunistic deals and kind of pushing the envelope. And so we had actually considered for MJ Biz, we ended up passing on it, but doing some wall wraps. So there's a few buildings around here where you see advertisements, skin top to bottom. We had looked at some of those of just, hey, MJ BizCon is here. We've got a new dispensary. If we want to get a lot of eyeballs, make a splash, make a statement that's hard to ignore. I mean, you can't get away from it. It's like you see it wherever you're at. We didn't do it this year. We'll keep an eye on next year.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that those discounts are a direct response to the expectations that customers have as a result of COVID to get them in the doors? Because what I'm seeing in Seattle is that there's 30% sales 3 days a week. Saturday it's online only, and then you have Friday and Tuesday 30% off the entire store. Why would you go any other day of the week unless you're out? You have to go. 420 used to be the number one sales day of the year. I've been going to 20 stores on 420 every year for 6 years, and those always end up being the everyday low price 2 years later, except now. Because now we're starting to get into this more traditional scale. I think that the discounts are taking away from that. I want to ask you if that's the case. And we're seeing more like 4th of July and New Year's Eve being huge sales days traditionally. Are we becoming more of just a normal kind of sin commodity like alcohol, where it doesn't really matter that it's 420 because it's so normalized? Or do you just have to keep on stacking those discounts to get people in the door as a result of 420?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that question, and a bunch of different lenses we could look at it through. I would say in Nevada, since recreational sales kicked off, we've really seen a promotionally heavy market. From the beginning, it's kind of, when we went into rec, it really became promotional driven. So being strategic with those promotions, making sure you're not devaluing your brand, making sure you're not devaluing the experience. I think when I talk about today, and when we talk about what's happening today, and you look at it across the market, not just in Nevada, but across the U.S., even into Canada, I think the promotional heavy discounting strategy that you're seeing is really a factor of, again, operators that scale it up to meet what they assessed or as a new demand. They've overproduced product. Now there's an influx of product. Demand has evaporated, and so they're starting to do a discount strategy. And I think retailers are taking advantage of that because they also are trying to comp against last year's numbers. And they're looking, all right, we've got an influx of product, more product than the market will allow. What do? You drop your price to increase the demand, and I think that's where you're seeing a lot of it show up. Our wholesale suppliers, even us on the wholesale side, are more willing to take discount strategies because we're sitting on product that was overproduced. And so we've seen that a lot in the wholesale market, where Wholesalers are much more willing to discount. You've got an aging product, it's devaluing every single day, and so better to move it off the shelf, convert that back into cash, and then right size the ship. And so I think you'll see a bit of that before we kind of find the new equilibrium, and then I think you'll still see a discount strategy. It's something that I'm seeing come out in the market, again, especially in Nevada, but I don't think it'll be as sharp.
Do you think Nevada's going to be the place to grow? I mean, we just saw Maryland and Missouri, thank you. Those just went online, and I'm just curious as we kind of almost hit that 50% mark on states. That's about the point where alcohol was at when they kicked the can down the road. I don't think a lot of people know that alcohol isn't legalized at the federal level. They just kicked the can down and said, states, you deal with it.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah, most people don't. And so I kind of see that happening as soon as we reach that 50% mark.
Yeah.
And so is Nevada going to be the place to grow, or are you going to have to either divest or rethink how you have vertical integration? Because, I mean, people in Florida should not be growing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not, the humidity, the mold, the cost, the everything, that's not the ideal place. So when we reach that point, how are you guys going to rethink how you have vertical integration?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think taking regulatory structure aside of what happens with states' rights, and if there is federal legalization, how does that get rolled out? How does it get implemented? But if you assume, you say, look, wipe all that off, and you are able to produce cannabis anywhere in the U.S., and you can ship it anywhere in the U.S., do I think Nevada is the ideal place to do it? Not necessarily, especially Southern Nevada. Now, indoor growing is different. You can control your environment, you control the temps, and if you're looking for high quality product, I think there's still a space for localized producers. I don't think you'll see massive economies of scale. I don't think you'll see a Canada model in Nevada where you have 150,000, 1.5 million square foot facilities that are growing product for a state or for distribution. I think, where cannabis has always been grown is where you'll see some of the highest quality product coming from. So you look at the Emerald Triangle, you look at the places where it started, that environment naturally grows high quality product. Doesn't mean you need to be in the Emerald Triangle to grow high quality product, but I think it's just going to be similar to a Napa or a Champaign. It's going to be a region that is known for high quality product, that has economies of scale, that has good individuals with strong product knowledge and growing methodologies that know how to get the product delivered. Now, that doesn't mean Emerald Triangle is going to grow all the cannabis for the entire U.S., but I think you will see distribution points, and it'll probably be predicated on environment and cost. And so, where are your energy costs lowest? Where do you have solid water rights? Those are two of your biggest factors when you go into grow. And then, how do you distribute? And so, if you start thinking, again, like any other CPG model, you start to look at where's most of the product produced. Ohio starts to stand out because it's the population center of the U.S., where they can distribute across the U.S. You kind of get your economies of scale in place. But I think you'll see localized, regionalized producers as well. Again, the environment's really going to dictate what gets grown. If you're outdoors, it's going to be conducive to grow cannabis outdoors. If it's not, you're probably going to see indoor light depth greenhouse. But again, I don't see a consolidation like we saw in Canada. I think we've also learned our mistakes from Canada of, hey, these massive grow facilities just don't scale. They don't work the way we expected them to. And so my hope and my optimism is that we'll learn a few lessons as Nevada or as United States starts to scale. I think there'll still be some folks that try to do it, and again, some may figure it out, but I think some of those lessons have already been learned looking at Canada.
If anybody wants to check out more about Thrive, where are you guys at? How can they find out more information?
So we've got 6 locations. Well, you can go to thrivenevada.com. We've got 6 dispensary locations. If you're at the show and you want to check us out, the closest locations are Sammy Davis store. Beautiful, beautiful shop. We'd love to have you there.
Awesome. All right. Well, I've got to wrap this up, but I want to thank my guest, Brandon Wiegand. He's with Thrive. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.